So yeah. Even though I do have a couple other things that I would like to do, I would like to talk about this one because even though I'm having some gaps between them now, still doing one other one besides the review, but it's been a while since I've done another Criminal Minds episode, or obviously with this one, 2. Even the last one was 2, I think that's funny. No, the last one wasn't 2, the last one was 1. I just haven't done it, mostly because overall, there are other stuff. There's even one other thing that I might do, and I might do another idea of a show that I wanted to do after this. That's besides the point. This is the thing I want to do with my keys, and there is a reason. It does make sense. But overall, this is season 4, episode 25, and episode 26. And I only realize this now, but I'm going to comment this to Hell and Back. And that title is fitting. The reason why I like this is for simple. The idea is you have a sort of military person go into Canada and they have the connection there. And this is similar to, I don't think I talked about this episode, but an episode that was earlier on, where in another city, a couple of people who were sort of on the streets went missing. They didn't know, they didn't connect it, and there was a whole thing. And they kept saying these people, you had this military person writing down these people, this person's here, and more people kept going missing. And at first it's interesting to figure out who's doing this, why. And when it's about crossing over, because the people are doing it, are crossing the borders, and where they're doing it becomes more questionable, because the first part is, one, did the military person do it, and then if so, how do we sort of know that he's not doing it, which you kind of do tell after a certain while. It's no, he's not doing this. There is something else that is happening. He did this to call someone here. This was on purpose. But when you realize that, there's the thing with his sister, that's the reason, and then they're going together. Now, all of this is coming together for one thing, which is basically, To Hell is a good episode. It's really good. It builds up suspension, it builds up mystery, but there are a lot of other ones that build up intensities with things that don't make sense and don't add up and lead to obvious, this guy is the pain, but I don't talk about it. So why do I bring it up? Because this builds up to Back. And I don't think I can talk about To Back without talking not To Back, and Back. I can't talk about and Back without talking to Hell, to explain the situation. Because at the end of And Back, the idea of calling it To Hell and Back makes sense. They go into a situation that's like this hard situation, and now they're back. And even when the closing monologues is talking about, they talk about how many people deal with the situation. You even have a slow motion for the 2 situations, which I think is interesting. They talk about how many people were impacted by this one case. Because you have everyone who died, which you figure out is a lot. You have overshoes, which is a whole ton, where it's all of these is so insane of the amount of people. And the amount of people there is so insanely dark. And there was one moment where someone said something, and one part of it kind of was expected to have a kind of expected result, which is essentially one person saying, when you find my brother, he won't go out without a fight. And Rossi said he won't go down without a fight, which again focuses on the idea that things aren't going to go well. And obviously, neither of the two people, even though one's more developmentally challenged and might not be knowingly know what he's doing in that situation, is still murdering people. So he's not good in any way. He's not doing this. It's not excusable, but the idea that you had all the people who died, you had all the families who knew people who died because of this, who still some going into being sort of homeless and not being able to get the money. It might be a multitude of things, and there might be some people who still cared about them and would be absolutely horrified to see how many people died at this event and see that some of them they knew died at this event. Obviously, I'm not going to deny there's some people who would not care for one reason or the other. That's fully a thing. There is a multitude reason that you can get there, and having families in certain camps who believe certain things might have that. But I don't want to question who that, because we don't know anything about them. We know a little bit about the military person's sister, but even then it's not like we know everything. So I'm not gonna question, oh, it's this or it's that, because that's not the point of this. I'm not gonna go into that. You also get, if I'm talking about how the person who did survive, you're not, throughout all that situation, you're not going to get out of that without some scars mentally. That will be traumatic. Alongside her family, who we do see come and support her, who had this scare, not as much as her, obviously, but that the person who they care about was almost killed. You then obviously have them talking about the two other people, because yes, the two other people, the mentally challenged person was eventually killed, even though Derek Morgan said not to. You actually see him in slow motion being like, no, and trying to stop it. It's one of the two times, but I think it was inevitable. One of the other times was in another episode that I'm going to. I don't think I'm going to talk about that one. It's a bunch of people who do a bunch of I think it's cop killing. I think it's one. I don't know if I paused that episode or not, but it's not an episode that I'm interesting. But it ends up with them being you have a bunch of FBI people who are they're at the door, they know the suspect's there, and they just leave. It's Darren Morgan looks at him and is yeah, what's happening? It's we know what's... I don't think it's actually Darren Morgan. I think it's the later episode after he leaves. It's yeah, I think it's later, I haven't paused it yet, where they leave and they're yeah, we know what's going to happen, which, the obvious, the cops shoot these two people. But that's besides the point. You get that same moment of Derek Morgan trying to stop this event, but he can't. This has already started. You also get the Marine who knew that this other person would not get arrested, realistically, because the only other person could not, because he put an action in motion that meant that his other person would die, so he could just claim a bunch of things. So he kills him. I love the line of, he gave his leg for his country and the rest of his body to prison. And then he talks about how much this case impacted his team. Which sometimes that's what I think is good about some episodes. Because if you're looking at criminal minds, you're dealing with some people who are effed up. And the fact that other people who are examining this, you kind of get that darkness come and see how effed up the situation is. But I'm running out of time, so it is dark and it is really effed up. But I do hope you enjoy, and good night.